Dungeon Masters of Reddit. What is your best are you sure you want to do that moment? Running LMOP for some first timers. At level 3 they come to the poison mold room and I describe it in the next cavern. You smell a sickening pungent smell. You can see the walls are covered in slime and mushrooms. The bard immediately says I go grab a mushroom and eat it. You what? I eat a mushroom. Make your con save as the noxious smell enters your nose from the room. Are you sure you wanna eat the mushroom? Fails save yet. Take 1d4 poison damage. You feel sickened but grab a mushroom and eat it. Make a con save. Fails again. Okay, am I high yet? No. Take 1d6 poison damage. Okay. I eat another mushroom. For real. Fine, make a con save. Fails again. Take 1d6 poison damage. Guys him down. And that's the story of my first PC death as a DM. Haha. IDK, I think stuff like that is okay, but I would expect it to be cleared at the start. Kinda seems like that dude didn't even really want to play, lol. You see a cube of acid making its way toward you. It is dissolving the bodies it moves over, stripping the flesh from the bones. Player. I punch it. You. Punch it. With your hands? Player. Yeah, that's dumb. I climb up this rock and will body slam it. He had to be throwing his game. Preteen playing a wizard. I want to stab the guy. Me. He appears to be a noble or otherwise rich man walking along the street in the middle of the day in an upscale section of the city. PPAW. I want to stab him with my dagger to take his money. Rest of the table tries to reason with him to no avail. Me. Size. Make your attack roll. Good. You hit. Roll damage. K. He falls to the ground, grabbing his gut as he bleeds out, screaming. People notice this and start shouting for the guards, who notice you and run at you, weapons drawn. PPAW. Me. Roll an athletics or acrobatics check. You failed. The guard grapples you and places you under arrest. Give me your character sheet. One of my favorites was Kid 1. I want to bunch the tree. Me. Why? Kid 1. Because. What do I roll? Me. You don't have to roll. It's a tree. You just hit it. Kid 1. Rolls anyway. Kid 2. I also attack the tree. Me. Try to ignore them as I speak with other players about the game. Kid 3. Starts attacking the same random tree. Me. Fine. You've angered the tree. It comes to life and attacks. Roll initiative. Proceed to beat them nearly to death with a tree. Kids, what loot do we find? Me. There is no treasure. It was a tree. Rest of the party didn't participate in the combat at all. Can we move on? This one worked out pretty well. Right at the beginning of our D&D obsession, my players and I pitched in together for Lost Mines of Phandelver, the D&D starter set none of us had played before. I volunteered to DM and popped on with the story. In the first cave, in the very first room almost, there are 3 wolves chained up and a goblin to look after them. It's a straight up kill the things in here room 99% of the time. My players were the 1%. They wanted to try and tame a wolf. Are you sure you want to do that? They were. So I set up an absolute gauntlet of rolls, thinking at some point they were bound to fail. Nope. Wolf sat there happily wagging its tail at their new owner, I guess. Then they wanted to tie up the goblin and try and get him to turncoat. Are you sure you want to do that? Another gauntlet of rolls that I was sure would fail. Nope. They got the goblin to turn, and even got a name out of him. Jinwin. I was not expecting this at all, so on the fly I told them that Jinwin really just wanted to get out and have a simple life in a cave somewhere. This became the overriding concern of the party for the next 2 sessions. Jinwin is out there now, along the Tribor Trail, setting out his washing and enjoying his simple life, and our D&D group is officially named the Jinwin Appreciation Society. Good on you. My group is like that, and it's not fun to force killing solutions on your party. It does require you to think on your feet a lot more, though. At this point I have contingency plans for any NPCs, including villains, that I think the players might get attached to, and still have to think of something for the ones I don't see coming. Not the DM, but I had a rule that his reaction was the NPC mob reaction to what we'd say. Two of us are climbing a mountain, don't remember why, and we stumbled on a red dragon cave, accidentally waking its occupant, who demands to know why we're there. First thing that pops into my head, can I interest you in a copy of the Watchtower Ayla Jehovah's Witness? DM starts laughing. Turn to my companion, run. So we start running. Dragon recovers and starts chasing. My companion has a hat of teleportation, grabs a hold of me and shoves the hat on, which teleports us right off a very high cliff. Featherfall won't last long enough to prevent our demise from that height. I yell, put the hat back on, so he takes it off and puts it on again, and it teleports us 100 featuring up. Again, this time the hat puts us back in front of the dragon cave. However, the dragon is not there and is looking for us at the cliff face. Instead, we climb down the mountain, hacking our own trail, somewhat pathetically as neither of us had much skill in pathfinding. But we lived. A deck of many things. The players decided to use it. One turned into a corgi. One died straight up. They just kept using and using them. By the end of the campaign, they had a giant mech warforge which had a portal to a demi-plane in its torso, and the campaign was completely derailed, but also kind of awesome. I had a samurai character once who, when offered a deck of many things, took but one card. 100k worth of gemstones. Everyone else took 2-3. Bad crap everywhere. I am asked and take one more and boom, castle and domain. He promptly packs up, pieces out and becomes NPC king of his own kingdom. Then I brought out my favorite character, Stone Giant Monk. He was fun and a badass. Introduced my friends to D&D for the first time. I gave recommendations to my friends as to which class they should be based off of what they want and what they need. One of said friends is neither book smart nor street smart, so I made him into a barbarian. We're halfway through a dungeon and I'm like, there are 2 zombies in the room, coming straight at you. The rest of the part is not present and trying to find him. What do you do? He says, I'm gonna throw my sword. I'm like, you know you have a bow, right? He responds, I wanna throw my sword. Okay dude. He rolls a natural 20 and kills zombie 1. He then says, I'm gonna throw my bow at the other one. I say, your character is smart enough to know how to use a bow, you know. Again, he responds with, I'm throwing my bow at it. He picks up the die and rolls another natural 20. Me. Frick it. The bowstring slices its neck in half and they're both, well, they were already dead, sort of, but now they aren't going to attack you. Top post in this thread has a story about someone eating mushrooms till he dies. This one mentions it too. I came into this thread with thoughts of a Hackmaster module, Hackmaster, that had glowing mushrooms in it that one of the PCS decided to eat. So yeah, if you say the word mushroom, people will eat them. As a player, it was when I wanted to teleport outside a tent without being able to see where I was teleporting. We had just gotten done fighting some goblins and tried to get to sleep but were attacked before we could fall asleep. As a wizard, I wanted nothing to do with the fighting being so close and wanted to put some distance between me and the goblins. Rolled for initiative and on my turn told the DM I wanted to teleport outside the tent. He looked it up, asked if I was sure and allowed it. Blindfold on. I picked a spot I knew would be out of the tent and rolled a d20. 1. DM tells me I teleport into a tree and to roll again. Rolled again. 1. DM tells me my teleport was successful but I am now one with the tree and unable to get out without another turn. Rolls a d4 but any amount of damage would have finished me off. Failed all my saves. Lost a 3-year-old character. I was P. Reincarnation as a wilding druid. My PCs found a rod of wonder. They used it. A stream of gold or gems came out and did 1d6 damage to the mayor of the town. Make it rain. The party was sent out to hunt down a white dragon. A frost dragon for those not well versed in D&D. They find the dragon's lair and are hiding outside of the cave debating what to do. The dragon is fully aware they are there and taunts them to come in. The party's barbarian, frustrated with the arguing and now being taunted, decides to stomp up to the entrance of the cave and yell back at the dragon. Everyone, including me the DM, were like, are you sure? But he was certain that was what needed to be done. The dragon jumped down from his ice bed and ice breathed him in the face at 5 feet away. He immediately turned and ran once he saw how much damage that did. This thread is so much fun to read as someone who's never played D&D. It makes you all seem like awesome people that go on crazy adventures. I volunteer at a local game shop and DM they twice a week. Google your nearest LGS. Call them and ask if they have D&D in store. We are a friendly bunch and more than happy to teach you. The crew was in a cave searching for a quest item when they started to fight this giant shadow hound with a magical ruby in its forehead keeping the dark energy all contained. Well, when they defeated it, the crazy half-orc on our team decided he wanted to eat it. The team ended up getting it away from him, but he stole it back later while they were all fighting the boss, and then slammed it into his forehead. He then convinced the necromancer to craft him a crown for it made out of squirrel bones. Gave him some magic defense though, so I guess it all worked out in the end. I always like it when trolls are killed and then the party begins searching for loot without burning the troll's remains. Probably not my best Are You Sure moments, but definitely a favorite of mine. Well, we had just started a campaign and the party was receiving information on the big bad evil from a camp of gypsies. The gypsies were scared of outsiders and very guarded. I made it clear that any wrong move and they would no longer be welcome. So of course the monk got bored of the role playing between the party and the gypsies and snuck off. He rolled to sneak and check out a tent that was surrounded by a group of gruff looking men. He succeeded and found a locked wooden chest. The monk immediately said I attempt to smash it. I warned him that the walls of the tent were very thin. He didn't care and smashed the chest. When the men outside rushed in, I tried to give him redemption by having the men tell him to drop the items and talk, but the level 3 tried to take on 12 men alone instead. That is how I had a player die 20 minutes into my campaign. Are you sure about that is our DM's warning that you've picked up the idiot ball and need someone to backstop your decisions immediately. Woe unto there who says yes. It's led to TPKs, and not. Everyone roll up another character moments. Game ending TPKs, the kind where the book's closing sounds like a coffin slamming shut, and the DM goes, next month we'll be playing something different. That question doesn't get asked often, but when it does, we all stop and look at each other carefully, like we were sure, but now we're not. I thought it would be cool to add a bit of foreshadowing to the story in the opening tavern. This is the conversation that happened between the bartender and the warlock in the party after he noticed a suspicious looking drink in the back of the bar. How much for the strong looking drink over there? I'd be careful with that one. That's what we call the drink of the gods. Legend has it one drink will summon an ancient evil not for the weak of heart. Okay, I'm in. So I must warn you. You will surely meet your end with a mere sip. I can tell just by looking at you it is a fight you are not prepared for. I promise you me and my friends can handle it. You can't. And anyway, there's by reason to risk channeling such an ancient evil at this moment in time. I'll tell you what, I'll save it for you in the back and you can come back when you're ready for it. Pulls out knife and rolls a 24 intimidate. Frick it. Fine. Drink up. Takes a shot of drink with the rest of the party. Party immediately gets their collective butt handed to them by the end boss. I mean, I did try to warn them. A player stole the hands off the corpses in a dungeon and when they got to the boss room he immediately ate the raw human hands in full view of the boss. I made him take 1d4 damage for each hand he ate, downing him instantly. Alright, so you have some info to deliver to the local thieves guild now that you're in the city. What do you do? I'll ask a guard where the thieves guild is. He should know. I mean, he isn't exactly wrong. One of my players had been playing a wizard for 3 years, and he had gotten extremely powerful. The team were inside a fortress, surrounded by an army of 3,000 men. Suddenly, he gets a great idea to fly over the army and cast chain lightning to thin their numbers. He is successful with this for about 30 seconds, before he takes 20 arrows to the chest and falls over to the ground. His Magus wand breaks on impact, causing a mana explosion that kills around 700 enemies, but completely obliterates his character. Needless to say, he was not able to be revived. Losing a 3-year char is heartbreaking. I recently started a Star Wars RPG with my sons and the neighbors. They're buying their initial gear and my 8-year-old couldn't afford thermal detonators. He decided to force lightning the shopkeeper. There were auto-targeting guns in the shop and stormtroopers outside. Well, it was not the time when I mastered a game, and also not D&D, but rather the German DSA, translated title The Dark Eye. But when I was player, our group was at that moment on an area similarly to the Arctic. We were on a giant ice field. From a nearby area of land, a hot spring created a river of hot water that went over the edge of this iceberg and melted an area out of the field of ice that was the sea under us, creating a natural opening to the sea under us. Our goal was to get ourselves and a big animal down the iceberg into the plane of ice where our ship was located. My and the character of another player were both bound by one hand and one foot. We had a history of fighting each other with more and more vicious pranks. That said, it was really funny to play a bad-tempered vengeful magician, because the captain had enough of us and made sure that we stay that way until we are able to stand each other. So, we were standing at this cliff, dressed in clothes that would fit in on historical photos, bound by hand and feet, and the other player simply says, "I think I want to jump down into the water." The complete group was stunned, and I missed all possible tests to prevent him from doing that. He caught me completely by surprise. Well, he jumped. He dragged me down with him. We landed in the water, and even a very good swimmer as my character was. I was a sea magician, specialized in working on boats. There was no chance with these clothes and bound to stay over water. None of the other heroes were able to make it in time to rescue us. I miss you, Oliver Sullivan, you bastard. I hit the other player for weeks whenever we play constantly with my Libacantionace, the spellbook, in special while I created a new character. Yesterday, I had the last session of a campaign that we had run over 6 months. It was getting late, and the 3 players decided to just say frick it, and just started playing around. After passing a door, our rogue decided to listen at that door. He critical failed obviously, so he didn't hear anything. After some discussion about not knowing what was in there, they decided to throw the paladin through the door. Well, alright then. On top of that, it was going to be the dwarf druid throwing the tall paladin elf with plate armor through the door. Okay, I thought. Nothing's gonna come out of this, I thought. And of course, the dwarf druid with terrible rolls up until this point rolled a goddamned nat 20, so the paladin went straight through the door. I gave them surprise attack, and they slaughtered a room of 5 sleeping bugbears. One of the best moments of the campaign by far. What's a bugbear? I don't have a story to share, but I just want to mention 2 subs that are full of stories of the weird and wonderful things that players get up to. Ardengreen Text, Our Game Tales. If you like the stories in this thread and want more, go read a few posts in these subs. Had to be the time the halfling opens a chest in a cramped 10 feet by 10 feet room. In the chest is a wand. As the chest opens, enemies attack from above. The party begins defending itself. The halfling grabs the wand and activates, using use magic device. It was a wand of fireball. I made up some stuff about them all being charred and taking lots of damage. In game terms, that level 4 party nuked itself, graveyard style. My party was at about 14th level when this story takes place. They had just defeated a group of what I called eye knights who were essentially followers of a mad and powerful beholder who used some of his lair effects on his followers. This meant that rays of scary crap came out of their swords, and their shields were a large unblinking eye that created a no magic field. Part of the point of these knights was to introduce their next big challenge as a beholder and to let the party learn some of how to effectively fight one before I wiped the floor with them later. Instead, my party decided that upon killing these followers of a beholder, they should impersonate them. I let them know all of the eyes of the shields were closed, and had closed when the knights died. Minor illusion will fix that. In fact, I bet we can get all of us disguised with minor illusion and some other spells. I reminded them that these guys' boss is in fact a beholder. I also reminded them what they knew about the central eye of a beholder. I'm pretty convincing, says the warlock. I can probably convince them to all just leave. I mentioned the purpose that the eye knights had mentioned the beholder had. One that doesn't lend itself to just up and leaving. I really think this plan could work, guys. Finally, one of my quieter players spoke up. But what happens if we're all in the summer and he discovers we are imposters? The answer was very clear in my mind. Everyone dies. We had 3 people who all couldn't wear heavy armor and do most of their class abilities. A monk, barb, and warlock all would have been useless in heavy armor. And wouldn't the beholder's eye remove all enchantments? Yes it would have. He would have instantly seen through their magical disguise efforts because they would have ceased to exist the moment he glanced at them. And then there would have been 3 useless PCS and 1 helpful one at the mercy of an insane and warlike beholder. Thank God for the quiet ones who pay attention sometimes. Our 2 loudest players are actually the 2 most sensible ones. One of them is generally opposed to unnecessary fighting and has the social skills to back it up. We haven't seen combat in over 3 sessions now. Our GM is just chomping at the bit to kick our asses. Level 1 character. Yeah, I can take this town guard. Me. I roll for initiative. Our hero did not come out of that well. Or at all, in fact. I had a low level PC come across an ancient dragon who would help the party and not kill them in exchange for all of their gold. But this PC, a charisma based bard, wanted to try and persuade the dragon that he only had 1 gold piece, so he could keep most of his gold. He immediately failed and was burned to death in a single turn. You know how people in movies stop swords by putting their hands on the side of the blade? Dude tried that with a 2 meter 30 centimeters diameter tree trunk. I was running a Forgotten Futures campaign for my brothers, in which Apache Indians and Burroughs White Martians teamed up as the villains. In the first encounter, the players are sent to investigate an attack on a gold mine and discover a nearby Apache war camp. I described the overwhelming numbers, intending that they only surveil the camp from a distance. Wait, this is a mine, right? Mines have explosives. So now the plan is for the 4 players to take on a 100+ strong Apache war camp, and one of them just happens to remember that cyanide is used in extracting gold from ore. So they roll a flaming wagon of dynamite into the middle of the camp, then fight off the remaining warriors with poisoned shrapnel, laced landmines of their own design. Sigh. As a chemist, and a fan of the old A-Team TV shows, I fully support this plan and would love to know how it turned out. I was a player for this, not a DM, but, DM, you see a large brass boiler, our wizard's golem, himself a PC, another golem, it must be a rival for my lady's attention. I punch it. DM, you punch it? Golem, I punch it. DM, roll for damage. Golem, 16. DM, it breaks open. 2 ice methods and 2 steam methods come out. Roll for initiative. They had tracked a dragon back to its lair and killed its minions, but the dragon itself was out hunting at the time. They then, instead of lying in ambush, decide, oh, well okay, we shove all the treasure into our bag of holding, leave, and cast earthquake to freak up its lair. You sure you want to do that? Lol yay. And that's how the 3rd dragon war started. I'm not sure what the raging dragon death toll of innocent people was after they left, but it was way too high, especially when they proceeded to sell off different bits of this dragon treasure in various cities. And that's how the 3rd dragon war started. Brilliant. Playing Ravenloft. The party were trying to track down a serial killer. One party member through sheer fluke stumbles into the lair of the killers, a pack of wolf weirs. The wolf weirs manage to convince the player that they are in fact a thieves guild and the player buys it, hook, line and sinker. He goes back to the party and tells them nothing. Later that night he sneaks out of the inn and goes back to the Thieves Guild HQ to be initiated, without telling anyone. I kept asking are you sure and dropping lots of hints something bad was about to happen. The wolf weirs take him into a basement, then into a sub-basement littered with bones. He's still happily following them. Then they start to grow fur and howl. Still he's sat there nodding along. So I shrug and get him to roll initiative and the wolf weirs attack him. And he lets them kill him. I tell him he's dead. And he asks me, completely serious, so am I a werewolf now? No Mike, you're a wolf weir turd. They hypnotize the leader of an evil, vampiric cult and one of the players asked her for power. After the ritual he got a stat boost. Each session he got a little more powerful and a little more mutated and hideous. Eventually everyone in the party started carrying silver weapons ready to end him when he finally lost control. A beautiful way for a DM to give a character exactly what they asked for. Good and hard. Was running a horror campaign in my early days as a dungeon master. Setting was a dark and ruined manor. So far I had done everything from attacking their feet with haunted floorboards to having them roll consistent will saves to avoid horrific nightmares. It was all working well and this crap was serious. They come to an ancient landing on a grand stairwell. In the center of the crimson rug is a dark stain, hissing softly and releasing a pungent stench. It is dripping from the ceiling above, so high that the dim light of their torches illuminates nothing. So they stand under it and try to collect the acid for acid flasks. So the 3-ton web golem drops from the ceiling on them. Who collects the dripping acid without investigating the source? Not my game, but great moment I witnessed a few years ago. Playing Paranoia. All players were climbing a rope ladder, and the one on top says I'm sure the others below are traitors. They'll probably shoot me from down under. I'll take a grenade from my belt and throw it under me. DM, any more details on your actions you want to give me? Player number, I just take a grenade in my belt, unpin it, and throw it down at the traitors. DM, you're sure? Player, yup. Player rolls something, fails. DM, okay, let me mimic what happens. DM, air takes a rope ladder, you take the grenade. DM removes one hand from the rope ladder and goes to his belt. You unpin the grenade. DM takes his second hand from the rope ladder and starts pulling the pin, and mimics falling. Rah. All the other players, was that? Player, that just flew down past us. Explosion sound, way below. Yeah, I think it was. One of the party, a self-absorbed drunken elf druid, had accidentally provoked a vampire, who proceeded to attack them. After the vampire was driven off and the druid was on the floor on death saving throws, the Goliath barbarian character walks over to him and proceeds to behead his fellow party member for causing the fight. It's been nearly a year, and the guy who played the druid is still sore over that. Lessons must be taught quickly. I'm the player in this. During a 4E campaign as a warlord, we're clearing a cave of goblins for whatever reason, and in some half epiphany, I have an idea. Use a sunrod as a grenade. All that light and energy in such a small package. If we broke it, it would work almost like a flashbang. My DM asks, are you sure? Of course. What could go wrong? So I throw it, our wizard zaps it, and sure enough, it deafens and blinds the goblins in the room, in the cave, which we are also in. See, the DM had thought this through even further. All the noise and bright light affects us as well, and alerts the entire cave of goblins, meaning they're all coming for us and we're all reeling. What followed was a session full of hard combat against goblins who wouldn't stop coming because 4-5 separate fights worth of goblins suddenly all knew where we were. Best part, through a bit of luck and a rampaging barbarian, we all made it out alive. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.